Haas is one of the funniest teams in Formula One history. It goes without question. This team is a team that makes me laugh. I can't believe that they are still here in Formula One in 2022 at the time of recording. But boy, they've had some ups and downs. I want to get into the reasons why I think they're one of the most funniest teams in Formula One, because boy, there is things to digest. There is things to open up regarding this saga, this story that is Haas F1 team. Now, Gene Haas is the owner of Haas. He bought Haas from, I think it was Marussia beforehand. He bought Haas in 2014 with the likelihood to start Formula One in 2015. Well, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? The 2015 season did not start with Haas, did it? So what the heck happened? Instead, the team was ready for 2016, where it burst onto the scene. And to be fair, it did not have a bad start. In 2016, it finished in P8 in the Constructors' Championship, which is okay, to be fair, for a brand new team. And there was certainly no Marussia, there was certainly no Manor Racing from beforehand, or a Caterham or a HRT. There were none of these guys, Virgin, whoever it was that I'm thinking of back in the day. They weren't really those kind of slouches, but boy, it did come with some funny gimmicks. 2017, more of the same thing. They did finish P8, however, they had more points, so they did make an improvement as time went on. We roll on to 2018, where they had their best constructors to date, P5 in the Constructors' Championship, but it did not come without its shenanigans. Do you remember the 2 times that the Haas F1 pit crew could not put tyres on properly in this car? This car was absolutely hilarious. People were coming into the pits in good positions. They would put a tyre on, the car would leave, and it would have to stop immediately after 1 lap, purely because the tyres were not fitted on properly. And this did not happen once, it happened twice, for crying out loud. Yes, Grosjean, Magnussen having to feel the pain, the anguish of people in the pit crew who they're paid to do, not able to put tyres on. In terms of race positions though, this was some of their best performances in the year. They did finish a P4 and a P5 in the course of that season, so not a bad year overall, but with some funny moments. Gunther Steiner, I mean, do I need to say more? Gunther Steiner is one hilarious team principal. The man is the star of the show when it comes to Drive to Survive. To be fair, Drive to Survive is kind of carrying Haas, if that makes sense, because Haas would not really be spoken about in such, nobody has a bad thing really to say about Haas. Actually, wait till we get further on down the line. 2019, ladies and gentlemen, we saw Rich Energy, a Haas team that we got used to the colours of grey, red, white, a bit of black. This time around, we've gone full Rich Energy colours. Do you remember Rich Energy? Do you remember the jabron that was behind this company as well? Will Story. The black and gold, lovely livery, looking delicious. The quali pace, ladies and gentlemen, was outrageous. People were qualifying P5. I think it was Kevin Mag up in Austria, qualifying in some very good places. But the race, I tell you what, they built a car where they did not know how to race in Formula One. Outstanding scenes. Rich Energy had its own shenanigans, has its own problems that was going on, hence why I've called the man a jabron. But listen, this team had to change, this company rather, had to change its logo. Rich Energy I'm talking about. They had to change its logo because it kind of copycatted another logo. And then we had a situation where they weren't even paying Haas. So Haas was there spending money they did not actually have. 30 million pounds is what's meant to be rumoured around in terms of the money that Rich Energy was supposed to be providing for Haas. Haas did not see this money. Will Story was up to some no good stuff. The Twitter account, the Twitter admin of Rich Energy, which would not surprise me if Will Story, the man himself, is actually running that account to this day, okay, said that they have left. This is during the season, I think it was like Silverstone around that time, where he said that we have left Haas F1 team, we've joined Williams. And then it turned out not to be true. But by the end of the year, they did leave because the performances were repugnant. Okay, this team was qualifying in the top 5 and would finish races P19, P20. It was a shambolic scene by the Haas team, and Haas, already being hilarious as it is, adding Will Story to this was probably the heightened point of where people were really like, you were either fed up or you were just laughing your head off with the situation. Me, laughing my head off. By the way, that year they finished P9 in the Constructors, so worse than the last 2 years, and they finished ahead of the Williams, who, by the way, only got 1 point in that year in 2019. So boy, it was a madness. This was the year with Ferrari and their engines and the situation that was going on there. Every team that had a Ferrari partnership seemed to have an issue engine-wise. Ferrari trying to wiggle their way through the 2019 season, winning races, finds out they're doing a few things that were a little bit illegal against the rules, and so it brought it back down to size. They didn't win a race since after that, and it affected everybody else who was a Ferrari team. So you had Haas, I think even Sauber at the time, they all had the Ferrari engine, and they had to pay for their dues, as well as Ferrari did as well. The car simply could not work in 2019. That was probably the brink of it all. Grosjean said it's one of the worst cars he's driven in his life. I mean, that is saying something. And you know what? All that money, all that promised money, all the money that didn't come, or the money that was just absolutely spunked, meant that the 2020 and 2021 seasons were very, very sketchy for Haas. And then we bring in Nikita Mazepin. I mean, if you think Haas was one story that was just kept going and going, after Will's story, guess what they did? They went and brought Mazepin in here. And listen, not because he's Russian or anything of that sort, that had its own problems, as you can imagine, but the fact that this guy was an absolute waste man, a big jabron, the biggest jabron of the century. But look at this team, bringing in people like this into the Haas F1 team. Haas needs to stop being the topic of comical conversation, stop being the comedy front. This ain't Friends, this ain't the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. We need to be having serious teams in Formula One, and I'm sorry to say it, Haas is one of the most unserious teams I've ever seen, but it's one of the most funniest teams, and that's why I don't mind them still being in here. We've got the Russian flag all over this car, and everybody was looking a bit like, this is a bit sus, and it was very sus, by the way. And the regulations, remember, that were meant to come into 2021 instead of 2022, they got pushed back a year. So we're talking about a car that did not develop anything for an entire year. Mazepin's debut, do you remember? 30 seconds that lasted, 30 seconds. And they were just, by the way, Grosjean and Magnussen at the time as well, beforehand, right? These were two people that couldn't even drive together, okay? They kept breaking the cars, they kept smashing everything. The amount of money they spent probably repairing cars was worth more than any sponsorship they ever got in Formula One. And then you got Mazepin and Schumacher, again, two people that were trying to kill each other on the track. Well, yeah, one more than the other. I'll leave you to figure out who that might be. But two rookies? In 2020, you guys were having a friggin' laugh, okay? And this is the thing, Haas are having a friggin' bubble bath if they think that we're just gonna sit here and allow this team to just do what it does and no one's gonna talk about it. Listen, this team is jokes. These men were like minutes off the pace, minutes off the pace. Problem was, they need this Russian money, and that's the truth of the matter of it, okay? Mazepin's dad, forget the first name, doesn't matter. I don't think it does. He bought the dough, he bought the Don Dada, yeah, the mullah. And the 2020 car and the 2021 livery, guess what, guys? Nothing changed. It was an absolute farce. Yet again, more shenanigans from Haas. They need to stop being the front and center story of Formula One, because they always seem to be. There's always something going on, and it's always something to laugh at. That's the funniest thing about it. That livery, by the way, that livery reveal was a friggin' joke. And by the way, recruiting a person like Mazepin, I mean, this guy was up to shenanigans year in, year out. Even when he joined the team afterwards, you could probably forgive the past or whatever. I mean, some of the things he did was outrageous. But even when you've joined a new team, fresh, brand new start, guess what? Still shenanigans going on, still being hard to work with. And this guy's a rookie, and he's telling, man, you need to build me a new car. I mean, I'm sitting there like, going to Stein is thinking, what the heck is going on here? But 2022, guess what? I tell you what, Russia got given the boot, yeah, given that big boot, yeah, given that last ride. Here's the thing, Haas had to now change again. And now we've gone back to the Haas that we kind of originally knew from the beginning stages of their Formula One careers. And now we've got the red, we've got the white, we've got the black. That seems to be back in motion. We've got Kevin Magnussen back in the fold with Mick Schumacher. And already they had more points this season in 2022 than they've done for the last 3 years combined. So at least they're on the way up. Thankfully, we're looking at something a little bit less serious or less funny, let's say, with the Haas F1 team. And the truth of the matter is, Haas is probably still here because of that Mazepin money early doors. The thing is, this team should have never survived in Formula One. The shenanigans it's got up to, the absolute joke of a season, of every single season that they've been in Formula One, maybe bar 2 seasons, has been outrageous, has been ridiculous. I just don't even know what to say about this Haas F1 team. How are they still here in Formula One? Can someone explain? They've been an absolute shambles in terms of up from top to bottom almost seems like it, because whether it's a title sponsor, whether it's a driver situation, whether it's pit stops, whether it's sponsorships, it's just been a mess, it's been a shambles. But they seem like they're on the mend. They're in a bit of a pickle right now because they don't know what to do with Mick Schumacher, whether or not they should be keeping him or whether they should be letting him go. But listen, fair play, if they manage to finish above the AlphaTauri in 2022, considering how AlphaTauri have come into Formula One since the name change, fair play to them. And if they finish above, if they're P8, P9, no one's really batting an eyelid, because they were finishing rock 10th beforehand. And boy, Williams, however, still there. Maybe they're the funniest team as well. We might have to get onto them a little bit later. But yeah, Haas F1 team, you're still here, and I don't know how. But you are definitely the funniest Formula One team in Formula One history.